might think that getting into the IT field is impossible without a computer science degree, but Tech Coach Ralph is here to prove you wrong. Get ready for some jaw-dropping revelations on how to break into this lucrative industry. Listen up, tech enthusiasts! Are you ready to break through into the IT field, but feel like you need a computer science degree to make it happen? Think again! Tech Coach Ralph has some exclusive, mind-blowing secrets to share with you. Get ready to be blown away by his jaw-dropping revelations on how to break into the tech industry without a computer science degree. So get your notepad ready, because Tech Coach Ralph is going to change your life forever. Buckle up, because you're about to embark on a journey to success in the IT field.
Good morning, everybody. This is the morning show, Coffee and Kata, where we take a look at some news stories and then we get into our coding challenge. I am your host, Tech Coach Ralph. Hopefully, you were with us last night as me and Nico Sox Smith went through our cybersecurity Q&A. But if not, you can check it out. It was last night's stream. Amazing show. Tons and tons of questions answered. So hopefully that added great value to your life. Or if you go back and watch it, it will add great value to your life. But we're here for the morning show and we have work to do. So just to get this by quickly, today at noon, it's already scheduled. It's premiering at noon, the IAM engineer role. We're going to break down what it does, what it involves, and how you could get into it. So check that out at noon. And then tomorrow night, we are going live. We are going to be going through hacker101.com to get familiar with ethical hacking so that we could take those skills, leverage those skills to start working on some HackerOne projects. And that was brought to my attention by my good friend Don. So Don, who also creates these challenges at Chaos Camp. So that is the plan, and that's what we're going to get into. So let's get into our news stories real quick. Let me put our timer up. And all right, trying to get organized here. Okay, so we are going to go to all right. Let's go to here. And we are going to start our timer for 5 minutes. All right, so our first news story is Uber changes driver deactivations. So Uber is taking action to protect its drivers from unfair deactivations by identifying riders and Uber Eats customers who too often give low ratings. Those users' feedbacks will no longer count towards the driver's rating or deactivations. Many drivers have spoken out against what they say were unfair deactivations out of spite or bias, and which came with no warning, leaving the drivers out of work and often ineligible for unemployment benefits. Uber will also start offering the driver more information about why they were deactivated and allow them to appeal the decision. The recent report by the Asian Law Caucus found that drivers of color and those who didn't speak English well were more likely to be deactivated. Uber is also testing out a new tasks function which would allow users to hire its drivers for chores like yard cleanup, laundry, and furniture assembly. So that last part, that is an interesting addition to what Uber offers, where I believe that Uber is actually a technology company and not a rideshare company. They started off with the rideshare, then they added the the Uber Eats part to it, and now they're adding like this task function. And like as you know, technology companies as they continue to evolve, they add new services. So like they're a technology company in my book, right? Um, and I for the other part, I think it's good that they are trying to protect their drivers a little bit better because who knows why people will leave a negative rating if you can't justify it, then yeah, I think it's a pretty good thing that they're doing for their drivers. So let's get into our next story. So stores heed self-checkout backlash. I am curious to see this because I love self-checkout. So self-checkout technology has not lived up to retailers' hopes. Though it was believed self-scan machines would reduce the need for cashiers and help companies save on labor costs, it hasn't worked out in that it had it hasn't worked out that way. Staff is still needed to help customers with a process that can be cumbersome and confusing, and to help prevent theft, which is about twice as high as the industry average in stores with self checkout lanes. There's also the fact that many shoppers hate self checkout because it shifts the work of paid employees to unpaid customers. Walmart, ShopRite, Costco, Wegmans, and the toy store Five Below all have or intend to pull back on self checkout and bring back cashiers. I I am not happy about this story because it's I don't know, maybe it's in South Florida, but I remember when there wasn't self checkout at Walmart, the the you might be in the checkout line for 15 to 30 minutes, right? Waiting for like, the cashiers to go slow and they just don't care or whatever. But now with the self checkout, I can actually be inside a super Walmart for like 10 minutes and be in and out, right? I can go get what I need and then hit the self checkout lane and I'm out, right? And I don't understand how they say that it didn't reduce the need for cashiers because I don't see that many cashiers at Walmart now. There might be one or two people manning like 10 self checkout registers helping the people. And then there might be like one or two cashier lanes open. So I don't know. This is interesting. I'm not happy about this. Yeah, nah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to find the source who keep their self checkout. Anyways, let's move on. Why flexible work boosts sales. Companies that are either fully remote or allow workers to come into the office at their discretion have experienced faster sales growth by far, a new study shows. Scoop Technologies and Boston Consulting Group report that between 2020 and 2022, revenue at fully flexible firms rose 21%, four times as fast as those with hybrid or fully on site policies, which had 5% growth. The difference likely stems from the wider appeal of flexibility and bigger candidate pool it affords companies, said Scoop, as well as improved chances of retention. The survey included 554 public companies across 20 industries with revenue growth normalized against the average industry growth, Bloomberg wrote. And let's take a quick look at this part right here. Employees have tried making the argument with their CEOs that they're more productive working remotely when they need to. That's that it's more environmentally friendly not to commute every day. The flexible policies help broaden the talent pool. Now they have another argument for getting CEOs' attention, higher revenue growth. Um, well, so it's like there's so much conflicting information on this, right? Because just the other day I heard that like how employers are saying that it's not working that well. But then you see this. But as although with this was like right between the height of the pandemic when where most companies were working remotely. So I don't know. This is hard to say, but I do like the study. I like the flexibility, and I do agree that see the thing when it comes to remote work, it just depends on the quality of the employee that you're getting. Some people want to work remotely so they can do whatever they want and they can hide, and but then I believe that they would also do that in the office as well. So I don't know. This is a very interesting one, and I'm curious to see how it turns out. Let's get to our last one real quick. It says Apple bites the Google revenue 36%. Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai confirmed on Tuesday that Apple takes 36% slice of Google's search ad revenue in exchange for it their making it the default search engine on Safari. An expert witness unexpectedly stated the confidential figure during testimony in Google's antitrust courtroom battle on Monday, a disclosure that made the tech giant's lead attorney visibly cringe per Bloomberg. But Google and Apple had previously objected to publicly disclosing specifics of their pact. The Department of Justice maintains Google and Apple's agreement in place since 2002 cemented Google's illegal dominance of the search ad market. In testimony late last month, Google's head of search said it paid 26.3 billion to the default search engine of Apple, Firefox, and others in 2021, with 18 billion of it going to Apple. So that is a very interesting story. And yeah, so Apple takes 36% of Google's ad search. But I mean, it's not that they take it; it's Google's paying it to them because they want to be the default search engine across all things. So I'm not mad at it. And the government's always trying to get their hands into stuff that they know nothing about. So it is what it is. Anyways, let's take a quick look. Let's read these headlines real quick. In other news, the top B schools for career growth. Great article for you to check out. Toys R Us meets Mall of America. That sounds like a South Florida story. Um, rate squeezes rates squeeze small businesses, so inflation is hurting small businesses. We already read about the self checkout, and inflation slowed in October. So it is what it is. Now let's get back to our full screen. All right. So let's get into our coding challenge. All right. Let's go to. So last time we found a bug on the Chaos Camp Rock Paper Scissors challenge. And let me pull that up. Before I go on, I don't want to forget this because I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show. Check out, and it should be in the description as well. But it is happening today at 6 p.m. Astrid Malone, she came onto the show last night to talk about the event she's hosting. It's an online fireside chat where she's going to talk about navigating the landscape from business development to customer success. Let's take a quick look at it on the screen. There it is. Today, it's Wednesday, November 15th, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. She's going to talk about transitioning from business development to customer success. She's going to be answering your questions in the chat, as well as talking about her journey, like how she got into business development, what made her leave business development to go into customer success. So I would highly recommend, if you're trying to get into the tech field, come and learn about some different fields in the tech field, and sign up, and so show her some support as well. All right. So that I just wanted to plug that in there for my friend Astrid Malone, and go ahead and check out her event happening tonight. Click on the link in the chat or in the description to register and go and learn something new and show her some support. All right. Okay. So let's go to Camp, and I'm gonna pull up the rock paper scissors challenge. All right. So let's do. Why did this not show up over here? So let's go over here. Let's do that. Okay, perfect. And we are going to put 25 minutes on the clock. Yeah, let's put 25 because it's already 7:35. And so let's see what happened. Let's pull up our issue that we found. Let's zoom in a little bit. Over here. Issue. And let's go and let's check our issue to see if it was resolved. So this is what I wrote. This is me, Tech Coach Ralph, wrote the other day. So we found a bug where we were trying to pass. So we're trying to pass the rock, paper, or scissor, right? Per the instructions in the README, but it was only requiring us to pass in an integer. Okay, which that would be very very confusing to the user of the application of the game, right? So I gave a summary of what was happening, right? So according to the README, which differs from the Swagger documentation, we should be passing a string or an enum into the post request to the endpoint, but it's requiring an integer instead. And I said I should be able to pass that, and but it's requiring an integer, and then shared the response. And I said the actual result is I'm getting a 422, saying it's failing, right? And I gave the steps to reproduce. So this is how I write bugs, right? And then I gave a little screenshot using Insomnia about when I pass my choice of rock, how I get this, okay? And then I said the environment, I did Docker per the build instructions. And I said, and I gave a note that the Swagger documentation said it should be an integer. The README says it should be a string or enum. And I gave a case on why it would be important from a customer perspective, from a customer point of view. All right. And my good friend Don said, Tech Coach Ralph, I added the code that allows enums to handle both integer and a string. Oh, yeah, integer and a string. All right. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna test it out, right? We're gonna test it out to make sure, we need to confirm what our developer says. And then we can go from there. So what we're gonna do, we are going to let me open up my PyCharm. How do you like that? Less than 12 hours ago, we were live and we were living it up, and now we are right back to work. We don't sleep, right? We sleep for the amount of time necessary for us to get back to it. We don't play around. All right. So what we're gonna do here, so I'm gonna move this to the other screen so we can see that. And we are going to swoop back over to here. And we're gonna do we're gonna pull. And now we should have our so now we should have the update, right? So we pulled the latest version of the main branch in the repo, in the rock paper scissors repo, and we saw an update come through. You see the main file was updated and fixed. And I'm not even gonna look at the main file because I can go in there and I can see the changes, but I want to let's actually test the application. So what we're gonna do is we are going to do another Docker build, right? Um, so yes, we're gonna do another Docker build. I wonder if I have it in the history. Okay, cool. I have it in the history. So we're gonna go Docker. So what we're gonna do, we are going to just overwrite the. Could have probably put it a tag, but it's fine. We're just gonna overwrite the rock paper scissors API Docker image that we created, and that should have a new version. It should be the latest version at that point. There is a way to tag it, but let me see. Let's take a look real quick, right? Because this is part of our Docker. 'Cause we're gonna be getting more into Docker in the coming weeks, right? Probably next week we're gonna like start doing some Docker work. Tomorrow is going to be part of so what I deemed yesterday as cybersecurity week. Tomorrow is going to be part of that. Where we're going to be working on that Hacker 101. Let's see, Docker tag image. So let me see. All right, so let's just go and do it. All right, let's go. We're just gonna go back to how we did it before. Then we'll talk about tagging later. So now it is making the build. It's installing the requirements of the application from the requirements.txt file. All right, so that's done. And now so what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete I'm going to delete the because I won't be able to create this one again, right? Because I already have a container created for this, but that container is with the build that wasn't working properly. So what I'm going to do is docker, what is it? Docker rm, and then put I think this is the command for it, right? Docker remove and then the name of the container. Let's see what happens. There we go. So the image is now the container is now removed. So now we're gonna just go back to our previous command. We're going to recreate that container from the latest image. So we're gonna do docker run it detached so we can have control of our command line. And I'll throw in there too, like after we run it detached, I will throw in the Docker logs so you can see like as we work through the application how it's logging and stuff like that. Which I'll say this, right? On the show last night, there was we had a question about Splunk and pretty much you know log management and stuff like that. And my good friend Socks, he gave some open source log ingestion tools. So it is something that we could write. We can find out how to write the logs that we get from these little applications into these tools, and then we can practice and play with querying those logs. Because imagine the bug that we found where when we were trying to pass the string, it was giving us that error. That would be part of data, like the monitoring that you would do on an application so that you can make sure like what's happening and set up alerts and stuff like that so that you can make sure that your application doesn't have any serious issues, so that like I'll write that down after the show, so that actually I should write it down now, but I'll write it down after the show, and so that it could be one of the projects that we work on how we can set up our how we can set up like Splunk or Grafana, the different tools. I'm definitely going to use like Grafana or one of those type of tools, those open source tools, because I like to experiment with those open source tools and then apply that knowledge to those paid tools. Um, and we can ingest the logs from these applications. All right. So let's go ahead and kick off our run of the Docker container for the TCR rock paper scissors container. All right, so here we are, and it is up and running. So if I go to, let me open up Insomnia. So if I move this over here, right? So this was what was failing last time. We were passing in our string of the enum, and we're getting the 422 unprocessable entity because it was expecting an integer, but we were passing in a string, right? The input should be a valid integer, unable to parse string as an integer, okay? So that was our issue last time. But now we are going to give it a try with the bug fix by our good friend Don at Chaos Camp's GitHub.
We the best.
All right, so our bug has been resolved. Awesome job by our good friend Don. So, and this is the process of the software development lifecycle. So this was a QA challenge, right? And we're not even like halfway through the QA challenge. We're at the very beginning where we went and we tried to use the application to get familiar with it, and we found an issue. We reported the issue, and we made sure it was a valid issue, and then we reported it. And 2 days later, because like it was fixed earlier, but 2 days later, when we get back to testing it, working through our challenge, we were able to validate that this issue has indeed been resolved, and now we can see the valid response. So let's do it like this, right? I'm gonna close that out a little bit and go like that, right? Or that's not what I wanted to do. Where'd it go? Hold on. Okay. All right. So now let's just make this a little smaller and let's compare our expected result. Your weapon, rock, computer, status code 200, status code 200. And the computer chose paper, and so the winner is the computer. And yeah, so our issue has been resolved. So now let's go into our issue here. And how do we resolve it? This in GitHub. So let's go to here. Good question. Or maybe Don has to close it. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, okay, close issue. So tested and validated that this. Oh, let's go. So we're comparing. We're comparing our expected result to the actual result after the bug was resolved, and everything is on the up and up. So we can go ahead and we can close down this issue. So test and validate that this is resolved. Received 200 status code and correct response body after submitting string of weapon. All right. So there we go. Closing with a comment. And we're going to close it as completed. And there we go. So our bug has been resolved and we are good to keep moving forward. Thank you, Don, for that fix. And I hope that you enjoyed seeing us go through the process of how you when you come across a bug, how to investigate the bug, how to report the bug with a very detailed defect report. Shout out to my good friend Andrew, who caught that I forgot to put the steps to reproduce as I was writing out my template, because usually I just have the template already made and I just copy and paste it into wherever I'm documenting it, but I was doing it off the top of my head. So he was able to help me out and remind me, hey, don't forget the steps to reproduce, because that is super important. You will get that ticket back saying works on my machine because you don't put the steps to reproduce, because sometimes the steps that you're doing is steps that are different than what the developers were looking to do or how they thought it was going to work. So you got to put those steps to reproduce. All right. So we're done with that part. All right. So now what we can do is we can get back into our code and we can keep going through what is actually I have it in Notion actually. Let me find my Notion. And I'm gonna add a note to my Notion to project where we have different applications running in Docker, logs being sent to Grafana, and set it up with Terraform. on AWS. So that is a project that I will figure out when we'll actually do. But that's going to be a cool project, and that is how and this is how I like am able to retain this information by putting all of this stuff together. I'm like, all right, the things that I'm learning, how do I put them together? How do I patch them? So testing with Docker, and then the logs. So let's take a look at the logs real quick, right? Let me see if I can see. Docker logs. So we are over here, Docker logs, and then it would be the name of I believe it's like this. And if not, we'll get the exact command. So there we go. So you see how we have the logs, right? So Unicorn is running on this URL, and there goes the request that we made, and we got the response. So if we have it going through our log management system like Grafana or Splunk or Sumo Logic or whatever we're using, for me, and like for me, the actual software itself isn't as important as knowing how to, ingest the logs and how to query them, and then, learning how to create the dashboards and stuff like that in those applications. That is that specific knowledge that I'm pretty sure you can scale up pretty quick on doing that part. But for me, like the log management part is, for me at least, is the most important. I could be wrong. So if you think otherwise, please let me know. You can chat it to me, or you can leave a comment on the video and let me know your thoughts on that. Because I'm not like, I've used those tools, but I've never like built anything around them and then like pass the log to them. But we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it, right? So, and I'll figure out when. But that'll be fun. Maybe it'll be on a Thursday night because like Sundays are pretty much reserved for Terraform right now. Then we're gonna go into DevOps after that. So, anyways, let's keep going so we can see that. And so what's next? Let me see. Where is my? Because I know we wrote it down in Notion the other day as well. So we have. There we go. So we have, and I can show this to you. Let's go to. So this should be. Let's make this checklist actually. Turn into to-do list. So weapon pass to request is returned as your weapon. It's a string. So okay, cool. So what we're gonna do, we are going to go into. Let me see. Let's create a new branch. I'm gonna do it this way. Checkout the TCR. Our rock, paper, scissor challenge. All right, so now we have that, and we are going to go into our folder, or I'm going to do a new folder, new directory for tests. And we're going to do a new directory called API. And I'm going to create a new file in here. And I'm going to call that rock, paper, scissor. Because we have the tools of autocomplete and stuff like that and tab to autocomplete, I don't mind giving it a long name. But if I had to type this out every single time, trust me, it would be like test RPS, But it is what it is. So here we go. Let's add that to here. And we are going to go to, so we're going to need to import the request library. We are going to need import JSON library. So JSON is not Jason from the movie. It is JavaScript Object Notation, I believe it stands for, something like that. I am terrible with acronyms, to be honest with you, but I try. I know how to use this stuff, but if for me to get a job, it's like a multiple choice test where I have to like tell you like, oh, what does JSON stand for and what does this stand for? I'm not gonna get that job. I probably just like won't even apply for it because to me the work is way more important than the book knowledge that a lot of people try to ascertain. Um, and look at that, we have Marvelous James in the building. Hey, how are you doing, Marvelous James, on this beautiful morning? Actually, it's not that beautiful out here because it's been pouring since like Monday down here in South Florida, but hopefully by the weekend it gets better. Let me know, where are you checking in from, Marvelous? So happy to hear from you. Thank you so much for tuning in to the morning show. All right. So we got that. And so we have requests, we have that. And now we're going to say, okay, let me see. I want to do. So I'm going to create my payload. So what I would do is, so we only have 3 minutes, right? So I'm gonna write out what I'm gonna do, right? So we are going to have a. So I'm gonna write out my different tests, right? So we're gonna have tests. So let's write out our tests, and then we're going to plop them in here, right? So I can do. How would I do this? I want to see. All right, let me put my Notion on the other screen so I can see what I'm gonna do. Basic test. All right, so validate when we send a request. When we send any request, we do it like this. To do right. Validate when we send any request, we get a 200 or a 400 response. All right, so now we're validating the API is up and running, and we're gonna do send invalid response. An invalid response. That we get a 4xx error code. And to do send an invalid request, I should say. And there's going to be multiple invalid requests that we'll list out. Right now, we're just writing the high level overview, and then like we can get into breaking it down a little bit more. But this is how I plan out my test, right? Send a valid response for each type of weapon, and we get a 200 response. All right, so that's another test. Validate the computer's weapon as a string. So all right, so I'm just looking at the notes. So let's pull in the Notion notes real quick, right? Validate the weapon. So this is going to be validated by what we pass by these. Validate computer's weapon as a string. Okay, so in the response, we're going to validate. Okay, so yeah, so no, so we're going to validate in the responses that these are good, and then we need to write a comparison. Right, comparison function based on winning hierarchy. How do you spell hierarchy? Hierarchy, I guess. I don't know.
Lunch break. Lunch break.
Let's get that fixed. So, and before we wrap up, let's see. So this is going to be part of our invalid request as well. I'm just going to copy this right here. All right. And then, all right, cool. So we have our test mapped out and we will go from there. So what we'll probably do, I'll decide if we're gonna go into we're gonna keep with the we're gonna do GitHub on Friday or if we're gonna continue with this. We'll see. But I'll let you know. But I think we're making good progress. We got our bug fixed. We are mapping out our test, and then next time we can actually start getting a little bit more into the test and writing out the rock paper scissors challenge, so that we can get this wrapped up and provide it and submit it for feedback and see what the thoughts are. We'll create a pull request once we're done and get some feedback, and maybe we can actually have on the show, not a morning show, because Don is over in the West Coast. He is sleeping right now, most likely, or he doesn't sleep sometimes, so he might be up working. Who knows, right? So, yeah. So, anyways, that was the challenge for today, and let's wrap it up like this, right? All right, so I'm gonna leave you guys. I wanted to say thank you for tuning in last night. Thank you for tuning in this morning. Thank you for showing up. Marvelous. I really appreciate you being here. And check out sign up for Astrid Malone's event tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Her online fireside chat, where she's going to talk about her transition from business development to customer success. Subscribe to Sox's YouTube channel. Let's grow that, because he's going to be providing tons and tons of information. If you haven't done so yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. Subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button, share the video, check out the Patreon. So much information coming out in there, all of that good stuff. And yeah, so on that note, I am going to take off. Appreciate you guys. Check out the IAM engineering video coming out at noon today that breaks down what they do, and maybe something that you'd be interested in. Let's try to zone in a little bit more on the cybersecurity field to see what are your options in there. And let's go out there and get it, right? Let's go out there and get it, because at some point,
one more thing. Price of the brick going up.
and we want to be ready for when the price of the brick goes up and get out there and win. All right. So on that note,
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
I will see you guys live and in person tomorrow night for Software Explorations as we take on Hacker 101. But on that note, this is Tech Coach Ralph signing off.
You might think that getting into the IT field is impossible without a computer science degree, but Tech Coach Ralph is here to prove you wrong. Get ready for some jaw-dropping revelations on how to break into this lucrative industry. Listen up, tech enthusiasts! Are you ready to break through into the IT field, but feel like you need a computer science degree to make it happen? Think again! Tech Coach Ralph has some exclusive, mind-blowing secrets to share with you. Get ready to be blown away by his jaw-dropping revelations on how to break into the tech industry without a computer science degree. So get your notepad ready, because Tech Coach Ralph is going to change your life forever. Buckle up, because you're about to embark on a journey to success in the IT field.